Hello and welcome back to another episode of the For the Property Investor podcast. And we're here again with the weekly news. And of course, it's Nick Bendel that brings us that news. And welcome back, Nick.
Well, thank you for having me, Owen. I always wonder at the end of each episode, is he going to invite me back? And for some reason, you keep inviting me back, and here I am.
Yes, I go through this, back and forth every single week. It's like, will I or won't I? Will I or won't I? But yes, I'm a sucker for punishment. So you're back here again this week.
I think you're a victim of your own efficiency. When we started the podcast, you set up a recurring invitation, and that just forces your hand each week. You have no choice but to invite me back because the invite says you have to.
Yes, well, it's that was about to be able to just make sure that I didn't keep second guessing. But you keep producing every week, Nick, so I'm grateful that you always make it back.
Well, you're making me blush. Now, by the way, what did you and your wonderful business, Leifield, National Property Management Agency, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Oh, wow. It's been a big week this last week. Lots happening. So we're leasing lots of properties all over the country. And we're still growing as a business with getting new managements on as well as new staff. So it's been a big month of March with lots happening. So it's more of the same, and April is going to be something similar. So it's looking forward to it, and of course it is the 1st of April in a couple of days. So looking forward to a new month. How about yourself, Nick? What have you been up to in the past week?
Oh, I've been very busy. My business, Hunter and Scribe, we're a copywriting agency. We write content for finance and property businesses, and we've done a lot of different types of jobs since we last saw each other. We wrote an award submission for a commercial builder. We've been writing a book for a mortgage broker. We wrote a blog for a financial advisor. We wrote a media release for a financial wellness startup. We wrote a LinkedIn profile for an asset finance broker. Lots of different types of jobs, and that's typical, actually.
Okay. Well, I'm sure it's all very good content that you're writing, as I know from personal experience.
Well, thank you
But
very much.
Nick, should we get into the news? Have you brought us another 3 stories this week?
I have got three interesting and very different stories, although they all complement each other. The first one
Okay.
is migration responsible for lion's share of population growth. Australia's population now stands at 27.7 million after the population grew by 424,000 people, or 1.6% in the year to September. Migration was responsible for 73% of that growth, and natural increase the other 27%. The states that grew the fastest were WA at 2.2%, Queensland at 1.7%, and Victoria also at 1.7%. And populations also rose by 1.4% in the Northern Territory, 1.3% in the ACT, 1.2% in New South Wales, 1.1% in South Australia, and 0.3% in Tasmania. Owen, during this century, our average annual population growth has been 1.5%. Our current population growth is 1.6%, very close to the average. Is that 1.6% figure too high, too low, or about right?
I think right now it's probably a bit too high. With the housing crisis we have, we need to be limiting the amount of immigration. Don't really care where it's coming from in the world before people start jumping on me. But it's about making sure we can accommodate the people that we already have in this country.
Okay, so that's an interesting remark because you've you're from a school of thought that suggests, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that suggests our population growth should be directly tied to our level of housing and infrastructure development. If our carrying capacity increases, we let in more migrants. If it decreases, we let in fewer migrants. Is that kind of an accurate representation of your position?
Right now, that would be correct, because yeah, we're in a situation where a lot of people are struggling to even find a place to live and find an affordable place to live. And a lot of our population growth, as you've just mentioned, has come from migration. So it's we need more migrants, to come into the country for population growth, because we do need, as a country, more population growth to be able to do what we need to, and build this country long term. But in the short term, sometimes you need to uh, take your foot off the accelerator for a little while and cruise along before you can start speeding up again. And I think that time is right now.
Okay, let me throw another idea at you. You've mentioned that for now, at least, we should be reducing our population growth or reducing migration, given that housing and infrastructure development has not kept pace. What about if we maintain our current level of migration, but we make sure that a large percentage of migrants are builders and tradies so we can eliminate that housing and infrastructure gap? What do you think of that idea?
Sure, that's not a bad idea, but that would certainly help, and we should be doing that anyway. But we also need lots of other professions as well in this country. So that's one idea, but maybe a combination of the both. Maybe a bit less in migration, and the ones we do bring in are more skilled specifically for the building and construction industry.
Okay, well, let's move on to our second story. Global turmoil set to impact local property market. Ray White Group chief economist Nerida Conisbee has outlined three ways that the Middle East war will affect the housing market. First, construction costs will rise. Building relies heavily on diesel-powered machinery, fuel-intensive transport, and energy-heavy materials such as steel, cement, and bricks. When fuel prices rise, the cost of delivering new housing rises with them, she said. Second, rising energy prices will lead to higher inflation, which will probably lead to higher interest rates, which will also make new housing harder to deliver. Rising financing costs reduce development feasibility, particularly for higher density projects where debt plays a larger role in funding construction, she said. And third, it's unclear what all this means for property prices. Nerida Conisbee said, price growth is likely to slow as borrowing capacity tightens, but the supply response could weaken at the same time. So, Owen, Nerida Conisbee made the, I think, safe prediction that the war would lead to increases in construction costs. But I'm wondering the size of these increases. Are you expecting just a moderate increase in construction costs, or do you think we could be looking at really large increases?
Oh, to be honest, no one really knows. It's and it's so it's really like we wouldn't have expected during the COVID years, that, and no one could have predicted that, the disruption to global markets, of the COVID lockdowns would have caused so much increase in construction costs.
Hmm.
It was unbelievable. So, yeah, it's really a wait and see. Yeah, there's so many impacts in the supply chain, that such a reduction of availability of oil is going to have on that whole process. So, yeah, we just need to wait and see. And yes, with the inevitable higher interest rates, that's going to have an impact on the property market, as well as the impact of higher fuel costs
Hmm.
on individuals, and other parts of the economy, which will affect whether people are looking to buy, whether they're looking at and how much they can put towards um, their repayment of mortgages. So yeah, it's a wait and see.
Hmm. Well, I know you used to be a mortgage broker. I would like to just get your thoughts on the finance side of things. Nerida Conisbee made the point that the war would make it harder for developers to secure funding. Do you think she's right?
Yeah, for developers, yeah, absolutely, because there's going to be higher volatility in commercial lending, and commercial lenders are going to be looking at these developments with a bit more scrutiny, and and then yes, it's just going to be harder for developers to be able to price um,
Mm.
those developments as well as what they think it's going to cost. So it's um, it's going to create a lot more volatility and turmoil in that developer market, and it's already hard enough for them, and it's going to cause more disruption.
I noticed that Nerida Conisbee was a bit uncertain as to how things would play out in terms of property prices. On the one hand, she said that the war was likely to reduce buyer demand, but on the other hand, she made the point that supply, i.e., the number of listings, would also probably fall. How do you think things are going to shake out, and what do you think it'll mean for price growth?
Ooh, well, it's yeah, the impact is going to be it might we might have a neutral impact as a result, because it should soften buyer demand, but it'll also have an impact on the supply side, to be able to build all those extra dwellings that we need.
Hmm.
And this is where the underwriting that a lot of state governments are starting to offer for new developments is going to happen. The only unfortunate there is they're only really doing that for major high-rise developments. So for people who need more housing or are looking at more houses, individual houses, yeah, that the impact might be more on that side of the market. So it's yeah, it's a wait and see. Um, yeah, builders and tradies themselves are going to look for where they can get the most secure work. And yeah, unfortunately, that might be in the bigger projects as well. So yeah, we're going to have to wait and see there.
For our first two stories, we've looked at supply and demand from a few different angles. Our final story today, again, supply and demand, but a different angle again. South Australia promises assistance to buyers and renters. The Labor Party has been re-elected in South Australia, putting the spotlight on two housing promises they made during the campaign. The ALP promised to establish South Australia's first ever portable rental bond scheme. Under the scheme, tenants will be able to transfer their existing bond from one property to another and end situations where they have two bonds at the same time, one for their old property and one for their new home. The government will underwrite the value of the existing bond while the tenant transitions to their new rental property. And the ALP also promised to build an extra 1,250 new rent to own homes across Adelaide. Under this plan, rent will be capped at 75% of the market rate, so tenants can save a deposit. Tenants will be able to buy their home after either 2 years or 3 years, and a purchase price will be locked in at the start of the lease to protect tenants from property market increases. So, Owen, let's look at both of those ideas. South Australia has promised to introduce a portable rental bond scheme. Is that a good idea, do you think?
It's been talked about for a long time, and it's most states already have a rental bond loan scheme, and the problem is yes, and which is pretty much the same as what the South Australian government is talking about here, because they're underwriting it. But what happens when the tenant doesn't pay it? Um,
Mm.
and we're finding that apparently in a lot of these cases where yeah, the state government is just paying for people's bonds, and the tenants, the unfortunate bad tenants that take up these bond loan situations, or these underwritten loans, bonds, they if they don't want to pay it back, the government's paying for it. Sorry, the taxpayer's paying for it, and who's going to chase them?
Well, I'm wondering, I haven't read the fine print on this, but I'm wondering, wouldn't the state government get repaid once that once that old bond gets returned?
Okay, well, let me put this scenario to you. What if there is with the old bonds, what if there is cleaning needing to be done and the tenants haven't cleaned the property properly? Or what if there was a couple of weeks' rent that they still owed, and when they moved out and they hadn't paid that couple of weeks, plus there's $1,000 worth of cleaning, and it's a $500 or $600 a week property, that's pretty much the whole bond
Hmm.
taken up. So then and then they've gone and got a underwritten bond loan, or a bond from the state government, in whatever form they want to call it, and then they're yeah, how does the state government get their money back?
Hmm. Okay,
How
so
does the taxpayer get their money back?
mixed feedback on the rental bond idea. What do you think of the South Australian Labor government's plan to build homes and then rent out those homes at below market rates and then give tenants the chance to buy the homes?
Yeah, so state governments are getting involved with buying properties, and they're a lender now as well. Yeah, it was pretty much outlawed. I forget the specific name that we used to have for it, but yeah, 20, 30 years ago, I remember, yeah, this is something that individuals could do to help other individuals. So I could buy a house, and but you didn't have the deposit, Nick, so you were able to then pay me a weekly payment.
Vendor
And
finance?
yeah, so it was like vendor finance, and at some point down the track, a portion of those payments that you were giving me were going towards the deposit on the house. Um, so, but that was pretty much outlawed. It Because it didn't work for a lot of people, and but both parties on both sides of the fence weren't holding true. Now, of course, you would expect the state government to hold true to their part of the bargain. But why are they getting involved with this when, if someone is able to um, get credit, if they have enough deposit, they can go to a second or third tier lender. It's usually the people who are taking up these options are people who can't get credit for usually a very important reason, and they need to seek assistance in terms of borrowing from second or third tier lenders. And that's why those lenders are there for high risk borrowers. And yeah, I can understand some people get into trouble at different times, and yeah, they need to get back on their feet. But um, that's how the world works, and they need to uh, be able to give people confidence that they can save enough money to be able to get into another property again. Um, Otherwise, maybe another form of investing in an asset is best for them to look at.
Well, we've been talking about South Australia's rent to own plan, and of course, we've spoken plenty of times about the federal government's 5% deposit scheme. Which one of those is your favourite?
Oh, I don't think I'd like to choose from those options.
Both of them are flawed, you're saying.
Yeah, I don't really yeah, think either of those options are great to choose from. Yeah, it's yeah. So I think we need to get back to normal market conditions and get the government's fingers out of the situation altogether, and we'll see things improve, I think, over time. But it
So
takes time.
your message to state and federal governments is stop helping.
Yes, because they're not actually helping.
Well, thank you for your very helpful advice. I know, of course, that Albanese and Chalmers listen to the podcast. I don't know if Peter Manalaskis from South Australia listens. I'll have to check with him, but I'm sure your feedback will get back to him regardless.
We'll see. We'll see. But thanks again, Nick, for bringing the news, and we will see you next week with the weekly news. See you then.